Cats is like Shakespeare. Let me explain. I make it no secret that I'm a big fan of the stage musical Cats. And Cats happens to be very weird in terms of what we as a collective mainstream audience think of as a musical. Cats is different. Cats is artsy. And that's kind of what I love about it. If you're here for opinions on Cats 2019, sit down. You're not getting any. I was 12 when I watched Cats for the first time, which, looking back, is probably the worst possible age to get into this show. And it challenged every expectation I had about what a musical should be. It's like if an opera and an interpretive dance recital had a baby, with really no dialogue to speak of, and transitions between songs happening so fast you get tonal whiplash. I'm looking at you, Skimbleshanks. Now, don't get me wrong, Cats has a plot. It's just very simple. And because this very simple plot has to be stretched out over a 2-hour-long show, it leaves itself open for a lot of creative play, most of which takes the form of nonverbal communication between actors. What's happening in the background at any given moment is just as interesting as what's happening in the foreground, without fail. Two characters can come across as best friends in one show and as rivals in another. Some characters even seem younger or older depending on their mannerisms. There is so much left up to interpretation because we simply don't know. Perfect example, Macavity. He's the antagonist. He abducts old Deuteronomy in the second act. It's a big deal. But even though there's a whole song about him, we're never really given a specific reason why he's like this. Which is pretty important for a villain. Is Macavity purely evil for evil's sake and just likes to cause havoc, or does he have some sort of personal vendetta against the Jellicles? Although even what defines a Jellicle is sort of still up for debate at this point, even though there's like 3 entire songs dedicated to that very topic. Then we have the tradition of the 3 descriptive words. In professional productions of Cats, the cast is given a list of 3 words that describe each character, so the actors can have some sort of foundation to work off. But every production does not use the same list with the same words. The character of Jelly Lorum was described as cheerful on one list and dour on another. Victoria has been described as both inhibited and unself-conscious. Not all differences are dramatic as that, but you get my point. So what we have is a bare-bones script and vague descriptions of characters that are interpreted as seen fit by the cast and crew of that immediate production. What does that sound like to you? I love Cats because it's never the same each time. And I love Shakespeare because it's never the same each time. We've all seen a Shakespeare production that was set in a specific time period, or cast actors of a different gender for certain roles, or simply had a very distinct visual style that kind of informed everything else. And there's a reason for that. Though he is hailed for writing some of the best plots in history, William Shakespeare never wrote scene descriptions or stage directions or anything like that. Save for the famous exception in The Winter's Tale where he wrote "Exit pursued by a bear," because that plot point was just way too important to leave to chance. His character descriptions are also incredibly simple, just boiled down to their profession or who they're related to, and most of the time the characters aren't even listed in order of their importance to the plot. Look at this list I found. Why is Lady Macbeth so far down? So cast and crew have to interpret everything that Shakespeare isn't telling us, which is a lot because that's simply the nature of the beast. And this can lead to some really interesting character choices, particularly when it comes to nonverbal communication. Take this scene from Much Ado About Nothing, for example, one of my favorite plays, Don John and Conrad in the first act. Here in 1993, directed by Kenneth Branagh.
I had rather be a canker in a hedge than a rose in his grace. In this, though I cannot be said to be a flattering, honest man, it must not be denied, but I am a plain-dealing villain. If I had my mouth, I would bite.
And here in 2012, directed by Joss Whedon.
I had rather be a canker in a hedge than a rose in his grace. In this, though I cannot be said to be a flattering, honest man, it must not be denied, but I am a plain-dealing villain. I am entrusted with a muzzle and enfranchised with a clog. If I had my mouth, I would bite.
Same scene, very different intonations. They're delivering the lines, but they're also simultaneously working around the lines to give them more weight. On the cat side of things, let's talk about the song Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer. In the original London production, the song was very smooth and jazzy, giving the characters this confident air like they've been around the block a few times.
Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer, we're a notorious couple of cats.
In early Broadway productions, not only was the song given a more playful, juvenile arrangement, but it was sung by a completely different character, while controlling trash puppets meant to represent Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer.
Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer were a notorious couple of cats. As knockabout clowns, quick-change comedians, tightrope walkers, and acrobats.
Side note, I love that I can image search cats, trash puppets, and Google knows exactly what I'm talking about. Then we have the version most well-known today, using the new bouncy arrangement, but still sung by the actual characters.
Mungo Jerry
and Rumpelteazer,
we're a notorious
couple of cats. As knockabout clowns, quick-change comedians, tightrope walkers, and acrobats.
Again, same scene, very different intonations, delivering the lines while also working around them. Shakespeare happens around its words, Cats happens around its words. Do you mind? Not that the words aren't important, they just aren't the whole story either. Think about how theater has changed over the course of human history, reflecting what matters to the creatives and audience of the time. I firmly believe the reason we're still obsessed with Shakespeare 400 some odd years in the future is because he still invites us to put ourselves and our worlds into these skeletons of his stories, to discover how his words are still true today. Most people today don't really care about the politics of the 15th century, but you know what we do care about? World War II. And any English kid worth their salt has argued to a teacher, either through an essay or to their actual face, that a Shakespeare character is gay. It just happens. Also, remember 10 Things I Hate About You? She's the Man? Both legitimate Shakespeare adaptations exploring the real problems of contemporary teenage girls. Well, contemporary when they were released. I mean, in 2020, they feel more like a weird time capsule. Meanwhile, Cats had a song for many, many years that, in true Broadway form, had gross racist caricatures and a really catchy beat. But now we've realized that T.S. Eliot, while a brilliant wordsmith, was a terrible human being, and the song has been scrapped from the show entirely. Also, in the 2016 revival, actors Tyler Haines and Ricky Ubeda heavily implied that their characters were romantically attracted to each other, if not in a relationship. Now, do be aware, it's easier to make bigger changes like this in a Shakespeare play, which even at a professional level may run for a few weeks at the most, than in a Broadway musical like Cats, which runs for as long as it possibly can. Mega musicals have become a little more regulated over the years. But you know what we do have? Non-replica productions! A non-replica show, as the name implies, is basically any production that does not directly emulate the style of the original show. And with Cats, this has been done in countless ways. Notably, highly stylized costumes, adding acrobatics and circus themes, changing the order of the songs, or even not making them cats at all. Imagine going to a show called Cats, and there are literally no cats anywhere. There's a great Tumblr blog that I'll link to in the description that is trying to document as many of these non-replica shows as they can, and I am so glad because they are so strange. Was this video just an excuse to talk about non-replica cat shows? Maybe. No, actually, this entire brainwave was inspired by the recent commentary live streams that Andrew Lloyd Webber and Jacob Brent did on the 1998 film. Webber said that Cats didn't really have a plot at all, while Jacob Brent insisted that the plot was very deep and started spouting backstories and insight that a lot of the fans had never even thought about before. And I realized that both of them were right. And that's a weird and magical thing. Cats is what you make of it. Shakespeare is what you make of it. Theater is what you make of it. And I think it's easy to forget that sometimes. I do realize this is only going to encourage the people who like to watch Cats as like a political allegory or a cautionary tale about prostitutes. But that's a risk I'm willing to take. Oh God, he's coming.
Hi, buddy. Do you want to say hi to the people? Just for a minute. You were screaming for attention just minutes ago. Hi. Hi, buddy.
This is my son.
Okay.
Do you mind? Thank you. I was 12 when No, actually, this entire brainwave was inspired by... Or does he have some kind of... I lost the sentence. I'm looking at you, Skimbleshanks. I'm looking at you, Skimbleshanks. And started spouting backstories and insight. Ugh! What was that? I think that's a call for water is what that is. I'm a big... Oh God. My background's coming down. We've all seen a Shakespeare production that was... Okay, I'm gonna let you out. Ow! Christ on a cracker. In true Broadway form, had gross racist caricatures and a funky beat. That their characters were in... Mother. I'm interested to see how long this will turn out. Once I cut out all of my raspberries.